this was a presentation that I shared with our internal team. I'm not sure how many of you got a copy of it or saw it, but I think that it is worthy enough to share with you guys and gals here. And as the title says, this is really about how I think about engineering hot products. How I think about engineering hot products or hot product ideas. And you're going to understand this a little bit more when I break down the criteria in just a second. What I'm really ultimately talking about, and this is unique for us here in terms of what we normally talk about. We normally talk about, marketing and copy and headlines and offers and that sort of thing. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about the offer, and I'm not talking about copy. I'm talking about how do you create products? Like this is what I often think about. I think about what would be a product idea, and I want you to get this. I want you to listen to me carefully, because really ultimately my aim for this little presentation, and this will be fairly quick, believe it or not, for me. Maybe we'll have time for some Q&A if you guys have questions. But I sit back and I ask myself, what would drive the market wild? What could I put together? What could I engineer that would drive the market wild from a product perspective? So I'm not thinking about necessarily, first and foremost, I'm not thinking about what can I say from a headline perspective that would drive the market wild. Like I'm not thinking about, when I start to think about new products, I don't think about first and foremost, what could I say from a headline perspective? What could I say even from a promise perspective? What could I put together in terms of an offer to drive the market wild? I think about what product, what solution, what thing could I put together that if I just offered it to the market, they would go wild. And that's what I want you to think about. And I think that this is important. It's important to me, it is important to me to share this with you, because I think that a lot of you skip over this product thinking about the product, and you end up with an ordinary product or even potentially a commoditized product, right? And then you think about, how can I make it sound extraordinary? How can I take this average thing, this thing that is really available in many places that doesn't necessarily meet any of the criteria that I'm going to show you, and then you immediately think about, how can I make it sound extraordinary? And you're really ultimately setting yourself up for an extremely difficult task. Because when you skip over this first part, when you skip over thinking about how do I engineer a hot product, you're ultimately making a decision to try to compete on marketing, to try to compete on copy. And really, as you saw yesterday, as you see from these guys and certainly John, right? Like there are some extraordinary copywriters out there. There are some extremely gifted and talented individuals. Right? And if you are attempting to play that game, if you're attempting to compete on copy against John, I can assure you, you're going to lose. Right? You're going to lose. And so that's it, right? You're picking this game. We have this tendency, right? It's an interesting thing before I delve in. Now you can see why it's good that I only have 4 slides. It's an interesting thing because I think that we think of ourselves as marketers, right? We call ourselves marketers. We even talk about, I want to get better at marketing. And what we immediately go to, right, is I want to come up with a better headline. I want to come up with a better hook. I want to come up with better copy, right? And we're choosing to compete on marketing, compete on copy. And that is very difficult. There are a lot of talented, savvy, smart copywriters in almost all niches and markets and verticals today. It's very difficult to compete on marketing. It really is very difficult to compete on marketing if underneath that marketing is an average, ordinary, commoditized product. If you've literally just said, you know what, let me think about what I want to sell. I want to sell this because I like the idea. I think that it's cool. And now I'm just going to try to do better marketing than everybody else. That's a difficult game because you're, again, competing against savvy, smart people, and there are more and more savvy, smart people coming into the game, right? There are more great copywriters and great marketers today than there's ever been, right? I can tell you that, going back 20 plus years in this game. There was at one point very little. Now there are a lot. And so I immediately I ask myself constantly, one of the things that I'm constantly thinking about is, what could I create that would drive the market wild? What could I offer that hasn't been offered yet, that's wildly different than anything else, that the market would crawl over broken glass to pay for? That doesn't require crazy sophisticated marketing, crazy sophisticated big ideas. That doesn't require a whole spiel, a whole argument. That the product itself is so hot, is so compelling, that the market wants it, like desperately. And the market would fork over big money for it.
You know, I think it's just so important because what Todd's saying is just so valuable. And I think that a lot of times we could miss it as marketers, as copywriters. It's not like when he says product, I think we could go, oh yeah, like better offer. Oh yeah, product. We won't call it like the AI generator. We'll call it an AI generator 10x to the second power. Like we're just always thinking in terms of like wordsmithing. It's like actually stepping back. And when he's saying product, it's something we typically don't think about as info marketers, but it's actually solving a real problem in a valuable way that's not being done before. It's not about like, oh, product, everybody else is doing coaching, I'll do it twice a week, or you could call my AI. Like we're always thinking like these little hacks as opposed to as entrepreneurs now stepping back and saying like, I'm actually gonna come out with a worthy solution that can make somebody's world and universe better. Not an offer, not a product, an actual solution. Does that make sense? And I just want to make sure everybody gets that because what he's saying is so valuable, but I feel like you can kind of almost numb it and not hear what he's actually saying.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Damien said, and he's absolutely spot on, right? And then we're going to bring it back to, we're going to jump in and go through this. And like I said, this is going to be very straightforward and very simple. You know, when folks think about the offer, one thing that they tend to miss, that Damien just pointed out, is that a big part of the offer is having an attractive solution. So, right, I've said to you guys, right, that there's an irresistible proposition, which are things like we design an irresistible proposition with, do we use a hard offer or a soft offer, right? We can make an offer more irresistible if we go from a hard offer to a soft offer. If we go from paying $49 today to paying nothing today, take the thing home, enjoy it, have fun with it, and only if you love it in 30 days, pay the $49, right? Or with things like terms, with things like risk reversal and guarantees and bonuses, right? All of those things that I just mentioned are how you create and engineer an irresistible proposition. But as Damien just said, if that irresistible proposition is for a crappy solution that nobody finds attractive, it doesn't matter, right? I use this crazy example when I talk about this of, you know, if we were talking about how to grow a green, lush lawn, if you wanted a gorgeous green, lush lawn, and how to grow a gorgeous green, lush lawn, be the envy of your neighbors, be proud of the way that your house looks, all that, right? And we said you could have a green, lush lawn, magnificent, in 3 days, and you don't even have to pay anything today, right? Experience it for yourself over in 3 days, right? Only if in 3 days from now you got a green, lush lawn will you pay, and it's only $49. I'm going to send you this, I'm going to send you the water schedule. I'm going to send you everything that you need to do it. Okay, that sounds like an irresistible proposition. But if the solution that I'm ultimately providing you with to do that was, the solution requires you to sleep outside on your lawn and every hour on the hour dig up the grass with your hands and spit some saliva in every hour on the hour and do that for the next 3 days, I don't care how irresistible that proposition is. You ain't doing it. You're not going to buy it. That has nothing to do with the offer, the irresistible proposition. That has to do with you're offering a crappy solution that seems difficult, that is slow, that's tedious, right? Like no one wants that. And so part of what Damien is saying is that you need to have a good solution. You can't just try to take an average, run-of-the-mill, or even unattractive solution and simply try to wordsmith it to sound great. Right? That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about at all.
And
right?
What we typically do is we'll go like, oh, well, oh yeah, there's this fertilizer, it's got some decent reviews on Amazon, and there's this other, this other little tool that I heard this guy, I'll bundle them together, I'll give it a really cool name, boom, I got the best. And like we just kind of settle for like piecing together junk, as opposed to actually saying like, I am really gonna solve this green grass problem. I'm going to solve it, and once I have a solution that I can honestly and with all integrity and passion say, I can deliver you finally that dream of a green lawn in a way nobody else can. Now, as Todd says, now you position yourself to make the marketing easy.
And absolutely. And which is, we're gonna talk about that very quickly, which is also why, by the way, when we were talking about research, when the Copy Legends were sharing about research, right? And I think it's important to differentiate between marketplace research and keeping your finger on the pulse of the market. You could make the case to some extent that marketplace research is a one-time thing. I would say that it certainly needs to be done more than just once, but is a one-time thing. But keeping your finger on the pulse of the market is something that you always need to do because all markets evolve and change. And so the example that I gave yesterday of when Alex Hormozi launched his book, the $100 million offer thing, and then people started coming out with these, I'll get you 12 clients or you pay nothing, right? Pay nothing up front, I'll get you 12 clients and only pay after you get the 12 clients. Well, that change in the market now changed the perception of how attractive the other solutions like courses and coaching programs are. You see how that change in the market now changed the perception of value around the coaching and course model. That's an important distinction for you to have because as markets evolve, perception of value changes. What was once seen as a wildly attractive solution in a marketplace can very quickly become an unattractive solution in contrast and comparison to what is now being offered. And so you have to keep your finger on the pulse. And so to get back to the topic at hand, I'm constantly asking myself, based on what I know about the market, based on what I know the market wants, based on what I know that the market is being exposed to and being offered and being given and what's out there already, what would drive the market wild? And that's what I call a hot product. The value of this is that, like I think Damien said it, right, is that hot products, when you have a hot product, it doesn't require sophisticated marketing. Like it doesn't require the same extent. The product itself, when the product itself is so hot, the product itself does the heavy lifting, right? The product itself does the heavy lifting. And so ultimately, like Damien said, what you could say is that it makes our job of marketing so much easier. You see, you really have a choice of how difficult the task can or will be for you when you choose what type of product you're going to market. Obviously, if you market a commodity, your job of marketing is going to be that much more difficult, right? It's going to be that much more difficult to get attention, to keep attention, to create differentiation, all of that by the choice that you make with the type of product that you are marketing. Are you marketing a commodity? Are you marketing something that's available all over the place? Are you marketing something that's available all over the place and you're merely focusing on the little incremental difference between yours and theirs? Is your solution not much more attractive than the others and you're focusing on making it sound super, extraordinary through your copy, right? Or are you starting with what the marketplace would see as, dang, like that is a hot product? And so makes the marketing much, much easier. Hot products can create a buying frenzy. They do. We've seen it. I'm going to give you the examples I'm going to give you three examples from our world, three or four from our world, where hot products can create a buying frenzy, where you can see more sales in the first hour that a hot product goes live than you see over the lifetime of an ordinary product being sold, being marketed and sold. And so, right, yes, can you create buying frenzies through good, effective marketing? Yes, but it's much harder, right? It takes skill, and it takes a lot more skill today in the more saturated and competitive markets. You have to realize that. Next is that hot products can create marketplace buzz and recognition. In other words, hot products in a market get talked about. People talk about them. You're going to see examples of this. They get talked about, and people end up talking about the product. People end up talking about you. They have a different level of respect for you, a different level of view, perspective of you when you have a hot product. And then finally over here, hot products make the entire conversion game much easier. Like I've seen it. I've seen when we've tried to, when we've marketed, call it ordinary products and we've made them sound extraordinary, or we've highlighted what we believe are extraordinary about them versus just products that out of the gate are extremely hot.
Can you give 1 or 2 examples of hot products?
I'm about to.
Okay, great.
I'm about to. And so here is hot product examples. I'm going to show, this is from our world. Yeah. That was pretty smooth, right? Right there, that was perfect. From our world. And so, now look, you're going to see these examples. Do not immediately make the mistake of saying, this doesn't apply to my business, right? I forgot the Dan Kennedy quote where Dan says, right, I forgot how Dan says it a lot more abrasive than this, but he says something like, right, anybody can look for reasons why this won't apply to their business. The real genius is in figuring out how this does apply to your business. So the first hot product for us was the Agora Financial Copy School. The Agora Financial Copy School. So when Joe came to me, Joe Schrieffer, who used to run Agora Financial, when he came to me and he said, look, he said, would you help us? He said, we want to, now I'm on the phone. I'm on my iPhone, right? At the time, going back, this was a number of years ago, right? Everybody, I'm going to give you context so that you can start to understand the criteria that I'm about to give you. This was years ago. At the time, Agora really still is the 800-pound gorilla in the world of direct response. From a copywriting perspective, they were like this. Everybody was enamored with Agora. Is that fair to say? Everybody was at the time years ago like, oh my, it's Agora. Agora's got the best copywriters. Agora, all these crazy myths and crazy things out there, right? Agora is the best of the best, right? They've got all this, right? And very few people really knew what was going on behind the scenes at Agora. Very few people outside of the world of Agora were given access to what it is that they were doing behind the scenes. So anything that would come out of Agora, like everybody wanted to get their hands on. And so Joe calls me up, running Agora Financial, says, would you help us get copywriters? I said, well, what are you thinking? He said, well, we hold a 12-week copy school in Baltimore, and we record the whole thing, and I would love for would you be interested, Todd, in selling those recordings to the marketplace? I was just like, I got to think about that a little bit, Joe. Likely, but meanwhile, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. Why? Because I knew how the marketplace would view this product. And this, I don't remember what we sold this for. Damien, do you remember? Does anybody? I think it was, this was the thumb drive. $3,000. And so for what it's worth, right? This was, what do they teach their copywriters? How are they able to take people, like what most people think is that Agora has the best copywriters in the world. The truth is that Agora doesn't have the best copywriters in the world. At least Agora Financial just had a system for bringing people off the street and really teaching them how to write copy that worked well enough to their size file to produce really well. Right? So it wasn't like they had the best copywriters in the world. Some of these copywriters were lunatics, like were nut jobs. And so, right? So just to kind of fast forward this for 1 second, I knew already what they were doing to teach their copywriters. I already knew what it is that they were doing. We helped provide some of the material that they used to train some of their copywriters. But the moment that Joe asked me to do this, I said yes. And I said, here's the deal. I'm going to fly out with somebody who's going to do some footage. I want to get some iPhone footage. I want to spend the day there. I want to create this narrative around this thing of, I spent the day in Baltimore finding out what the Agora Financial did, what they're doing to teach their copywriters, blah, blah, blah. David, right? You were with me. David was with me. Right? And we spent the day and we recorded, we got some audio, we got some behind the scene footage, we interviewed some people, right? And it was great. And we used it and we launched it and the thing sold like wildfire. I said, let's not sell it digitally. We decided we were going to put it on thumb drives. I was like, Joe, I want you to hand number all these things. We're going to sell 300 units. Why 300? Just because I knew we would sell 300. I knew they would sell out. I knew it would create this crazy buzz and scarcity and urgency, hand numbered, the whole new, different, unique, fresh, something they'd never been given access to before, something that they desperately wanted access to, something that they believed could be a game changer for them. That's an example of a hot product. I believe that we could have put up a sales page, just a sales page, and not gone through all the other stuff, and it still would have sold like crazy. That's one example of a hot product. The next was the Masters of Media Buying Mastermind. I don't remember exactly how this came about, but what we did was we took about, I think, 40 maybe-ish of the top media buyers, like some from Agora, from like Ty Lopez's dude, from ClickFunnels, all the top media buying gurus in the online marketing space, Kurt Molly, I don't even remember, all the people that you know, all the media buyers. And we brought them together for a day in Baltimore at the top of this building. And we hosted the whole thing. It was free for them. And the whole aim was to get them to share the best of the best in terms of what they were doing to drive traffic, to buy media. So now we have a rare, once in a lifetime, up to that point, gathering of the best media buyers on the planet, from Purple Mattress, you name it, in this room, sharing with one another what they were doing from a media buying perspective. Now, just to throw in a little added detail, some of you might know this. So I said, the team said, I want to motivate these guys, these media buyers, to really share. What can we do to get these media buyers in this room together to really just go the distance? So we were recording the whole thing, and I knew, and they knew, that we were going to sell the recordings afterwards, right? So they were like, well, we could give, cash. I'm like, cash? What are we going to give? You know how much we'd have to give to motivate these people? Like, it'd be ridiculous, right? Like, what? I said, you know what I want to do? I said, I want to give a legit heavyweight championship belt. And the team thought I was nuts. I'm like, trust me, you don't even know. You don't even know. So now I'm at this thing, I'm kicking it off. They're around the table. We got folks all in this room. And I say to them, look, here's what's going to happen. So we're going to, you guys are going to share. And at the end of the day, you guys are going to vote for who is the most valuable media buyer of the day, who shared the most value. And the truth is, as I'm talking, as I'm sharing this, they're kind of, some of them are on their laptops, some of them are like scrolling a little bit, until, right? And I say to them, and here's what the winner is going to get. And then I crack open this box, and I take out this heavyweight championship belt, and I thud this thing right on the entire place, looks up, and they went wild to the point where, I'm not even joking with you, Damien can testify to this, that by the end of the day, some of them had web pages with bonuses that they were willing to give people if you voted for them to be the most valuable media buyer. It was like insane. It became like an affiliate thing in this room. So you better believe they were giving the best of the best, right? That's where Kurt Molly's belt method came from, him winning the belt that day. And now that thing travels with him. It's like his, it's like his pet, Oh, so then I just give you this little nugget. So then he's at an after party or something like that. He's at a party. Of course, who goes to an after party in Vegas and brings his belt that they just won from it? He brings his heavyweight championship belt. And then I'm on Facebook one night and I see this post. He goes, somebody stole the belt. Somebody stole the heavyweight championship belt. And I could tell, he's like, there's a reward for this belt. So of course, I immediately message him and I'm like, is this like a shtick? Is this like a promo that you're running? He's like, no, somebody legitimately stole the heavyweight belt. And then I just saw him posting updates for his lost dog. My heart went out. He was so distraught. My heart went out to him. We were like, we send this guy another belt, please. Buy another belt and send it to him. And so we did. I think he has insurance on the thing now. And so it became his whole shtick. But then we sold the recordings. And that was a hot product because, right, it's not like going through someone's course, right? There's an aspect, there's a little voyeuristic aspect. Let me see what these guys say to each other when they're competing to be the best of the best. What are they talking about right now, right? How are they conversing with one another, right? Where is their disagreement, right? It was something that hadn't been done before, hadn't been offered before. It's an example of a hot product. The Decade Plus swipe file. The Decade Plus swipe file. So this is a little bit of, I'm almost embarrassed of how this thing got put together, right? Like this, this caused some marital friction, this product here. For 10 plus years, I saved every single direct mail piece that I got from the best of the best direct response marketers on the planet. For 10 plus years. Everything that Dan Kennedy mailed out, everything from Glazer Kennedy, every catalog, every sales letter, every postcard, from Frank Kern, from ClickFunnels, from Caleb O'Dowd, from Newsmax, from all of the Agora companies, from Motley Fool, all of them. I saved every one 10 plus years. When I moved from my old house to the new house, and my wife was like, it's time to, I'm like, those things are coming with us, right? We'll forego on the pictures before we forego on that swipe file. Are you kidding me? Like, that baby's coming with it. I'm doing something with it. I'm too far into this thing to let this go now. And so, right? And so then we, obviously, as you guys know, we digitized it. We turned it into, it took us, I remember I got to tell the story of mailing the box. The swipe file was something like 78 pounds. When I had to use a hand truck bringing it into UPS to ship it out.
So Lizzie
got
the one. So how long did it take you to scan the, tell us the swipe file.
Mind you though, before that, mind you, when I put it into the box to send to Lizzie to digitize it, this was me going, and bringing it in. And so how long did it take to...
So it got delivered to our mailbox, and I was at an apartment at the time, which the mailbox is 100 yards down that way. So I got a notification, I got a package. Oh, let's go down there. It is a box about this big, about this tall, 70 pounds of paper. Okay, so I tried to figure out how to get it from my mailbox to my house. And then it took probably 56 hours of, like 16-hour days, just straight scanning, sticking it through, going.
And then we did an amazing job. Amazing. And then we organized it into volumes. Like there was like a Dan Kennedy volume. There was, I think, Magalog volume. There was so many volumes. In fact, it ended up being a total, what we mailed out, what we actually created that we could mail out was 5 volumes, 800 pages a volume, 4,000 pages total. We still have, I believe, 3 or 4 unpublished volumes that we just could not include in there because it would jack the cost through the roof. To mail out the swipe file to folks, it was 23.4 pounds. 23.4 pounds. So what you have here is you have a product that took 10 plus years to curate, a product that was only able to be put together because I got direct mail, tons of direct mail that gets sent by most of the top direct response marketers never get published online. So it's not like duplicates of what it is that they're doing online. There's a ton of stuff that just never got put online. So the beauty is over 10 plus years, you're getting to see how campaigns changed. Like I got to see 10 years of Dan Kennedy promoting a live event, the same live event. I got to see what copy he recycled year after year after year, what stuff he changed, what he tweaked. Did he tweak the pricing? Did he tweak the guarantee? Did he tweak the call to action? Did he tweak the way he presented bonuses? Did he change from, promise to theme? Did he remain with a theme kind of approach the whole time? And I got to see that over and over and over with all different types of direct mail pieces. So this was a one-of-a-kind, unique product that you could not get anywhere else. Unmatched, extremely difficult to put together, extremely valuable. And that's why they sold like crazy. Make sense? Hot product. Didn't require, we had a sales page. That was it for that. We had a sales page and emails to sell Decade Plus. And then we did some webinars with some partners that wanted to promote it, but that was it. Pretty straightforward. And the last one, which was an idea depending on how it went yesterday, was the Copy Legends lock-in. Of course, like, look, let me be crystal clear, and let me say this in front of these two gentlemen right here, right? Of course, that was a dream of mine to do that. That was an incredible honor for me to have these guys in there yesterday. Like, that was a surreal experience for me to sit around and get to listen to copywriters far smarter than me, far more experienced than me. I get to listen to John all the time, which is still blows me away and learn. An incredible thing, right? But I'm also not running a charity, right? And so, like, you know, I'm not running a nonprofit. And so I also knew, I said, you know, if you're in this game, if you are in this game even remotely, who would not want to hear what the best copywriters in the world had to say to each other privately in a mansion about what's working now with copy? Like, I know I would want that, and I would pay big money for that, right? Like, if there was a private conversation between these guys for 3 hours, or I'm lucky enough that I get to have private conversations with John, but if there was a private conversation between a couple of copy legends, I'm buying it. I'm buying it. And so, right, you don't have to have a crazy big idea. You don't have to have, right, if this ends up becoming a great product or something, right? Like, that to me is a hot product. And so the criteria that I look for, and I believe this is my last slide, I made it. The criteria that I think about, that I look for with this kind of thing, is number one, it's rare. It's rare. Right? Like, it's rare. That's something that I'm looking for, right? Like, you look at all those, you look at the Agorify, you can't get that anywhere, right? Like, there was only one spot that at the time, there was only one place that you can get access to that, and that was us. Masters of Media Buying. There was no other place to get that kind of, to get access to that kind of information. You could take somebody's course, you could listen to a podcast, those were a dime a dozen. That's very different than seeing these guys sit around and talk to each other. You know, I'm a big fan of products, bonuses, and I've said this to you before, that give this voyeuristic opportunity. Like I've always said, like when I talked about, James Altucher, and when I shared the idea of, James could put together a book on how to invest, or he could put together a course on how to invest. That's a dime a dozen, man. Yeah, James is a unique character, right? But that's a dime a dozen. Those things are available all over. But I said, you know what? Why don't you take James, put him in his car, put his daughter in the car, let them drive for an hour, have his daughter turn on the recording on her iPhone, and have her say, Daddy, I know you teach people all about how to invest, but like, tell me the truth. Tell me the real deal. Like, right? If you wanted me to get wealthy, what should I do? And now record that. That is a unique product. See, why? Because voyeur, right? Because it's not meant for public consumption. Wasn't intended for public consumption. Go ahead.
One that you might have left off the list is the internal marketing calls.
Yeah.
Which I scooped that up like days after I bought E5 coaching. And he messaged me and was like, what are you doing? Why are you buying more stuff? But I just had to buy
I'm the
that.
anti-salesperson in my company. Don't buy more.
I was like, these are internal calls where he's like talking to the team. I gotta have this for that specific reason.
It's great. We try not to share with the team that I'm telling you don't buy more like back then. Don't buy any more. Just study the thing you bought already, man. Even we did that also, the whole voyeur thing so when we did with Robert Cialdini, his, persuasion? What's the persuasion? So part of that offer was, right, so part of the offer for his book was a phone call that I had with him, like a private phone call that I had with Dr. Cialdini, plus my notes on the book, my personal notes on the book. That's the, people want to see, like, I want to see the unpolished stuff. I want to see the stuff, right? Like, I don't want the doctor's book on how to get healthy. I want to see the note that he left to his wife about what she should do to get healthy and keep her immune system working. That's what I want to see. I want to see the email exchange between the doctor and his neighbor, where the doctor's helping the neighbor to get healthy. That to me is significantly more valuable than a book published, edited, cleaned up for public consumption. There's a different view, a different perspective that we have with that type of access. When something is viewed, it wasn't intended for public consumption, right? Like here another example that really could have been on there was the apprenticeship program. So David came to me and really fell in love with direct response. And David really said, as we tell the story, probably embellished a little bit, but David said, I want to do what you do, right? And so I said,
I'm not going away until you teach me exactly what you know.
Fair enough. And so then I said, all right, like for 16 weeks, we're going to jump on, right? For 16 weeks, we're going to jump on every week. We're probably going to take about 2 hours. And for 16 weeks, 2 hours a week at least, right, we're going to have a virtual whiteboard, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to teach you everything I know. Because David, let me back up 1 second. David wanted to do marketing for our agency clients when we were taking on clients back then. He wanted to do agency work. He actually wanted to create marketing. So then this is an important point. So me training David or apprenticing David, I had skin in the game. In other words, I stood to lose, because if I didn't train David, if I didn't apprentice him well enough, then my clients would suffer. My business would suffer, right? The results that we get for people would suffer. So I had to go the distance with David and give him everything, right? So in other words, I couldn't hold back. I couldn't, shortcut anything. I had to go the distance. So then when I said, well, I'm going to be doing this anyway, why don't we just give people the opportunity to pay, to be flies on the wall and attend and watch and learn? And that thing just became an unbelievable product for us. I think we have some top ONE members that came in from the apprenticeship, James and Yada. And so, right, different, not the same, not just a training course. This is me behind the scenes, apprenticing, developing, giving everything that I've got from A to Z, right, to the guy who is now going to be part of our agency and you get to sit in. That's not the same as just an ordinary course or a series of videos that I put together. And so rare, even that. How often do you get access to see behind the scenes someone training, let's take, Russell Brunson training his CMO, right? And what does he really say to his CMO? Not what does he say on camera when he's in public, not what is he saying when he's creating a course from the stage, right? And it needs to be polished and clean, but what is he really saying and teaching and showing and doing and looking at behind the scenes? See, that's rare. Next is it's first of its kind, or it's the first time this type of thing is being offered. Right, so you think about, if you look at each one of these, never before at the time, you never could get access to, this was the first opportunity to get access to the Agora Financial Copy School. This was the first time that anybody ever did a mastermind roundtable with the top media buyers, sharing and swapping and competing to be winner. Nobody's ever offered anything even remotely close to the decade-plus swipe file. It ain't out there, man. It's not out there. This is the one and only, right? First time that anything like this has been offered. I personally have never seen, like I said, if Copy Legends ends up becoming a product, and I've never seen that happen. I've never seen anybody pull that off. Nothing similar is offered. This is kind of, I guess you could say the same thing. Nothing similar, nothing like it is offered. I don't mean similar like, look, you could go back and you could say, well, there are swipe files out there. Of course, there are tons of swipe files out there. Eugene Schwartz ads, and there are swipe files of even campaigns today. That's wildly different than the campaigns that the best marketers paid big money to send out via direct mail, right? Like, that's wildly different. They're not the same. Stuff that you never see online, stuff that you can look at over a 10-year plus period to see the evolution, the changes. This is what I'm thinking about when I think about, right? Like, I think about, I want something that's rare. I want something that's the first of its kind, right? I want something that there's nothing like this that's been offered up to this point. I want something that it's difficult to replicate. It's not difficult to replicate an online course. right? It's not, you could do that in an afternoon if you really wanted to. It's certainly difficult to replicate getting the masters of media buying, right, together, doing that, hosting that, having the connections, having the ability to pull that off, having the clout, the credibility. Certainly, I would say the decade plus swipe file, good luck. Anybody else wants to be a lunatic and save all that for 10 plus years, right? It's extremely difficult to replicate. I think about stuff where you give access to the marketplace that they normally wouldn't get access to, right? That they normally would never have access to. And so if you, once again, if you look at these, they normally would never have gotten access to anything from Agora in terms of the way that they're training their people. They certainly, right, they would never have been able to, normally the average individual would never be able to hear what the best media buyers were saying and sharing with each other, like behind closed doors. People love to know what goes on behind closed doors, right? Like they love to know what really gets shared behind closed doors in private amongst peers. They normally would not get access to that. That's why people pay big money for connections, right? People pay big money for access. And even the decade plus swipe file, unless you were willing to get on those direct mail lists, you would normally never see all of those campaigns. You would normally never get access to that. So you have no idea what the best of the best marketers are paying big money to send out. You're missing out on a chunk of education that you normally would not get access to with that. And then finally, I would say that there's some bragging rights. Like I think it was very recently, I think you actually commented on a post. I can't remember who posted it, but somebody actually posted recently, just the other day, the image, ironically, after years, the image of their numbered thumb drive, right?
That was, like when I got it, it's like just...
Posted it on Facebook. This has been years. The other day, posted a picture and we're like, how many of you have one of these things? Like, who remembers this? I was like, right? That's bragging rights. We had somebody yesterday, right? Like who want somebody in attendance. We didn't have a name badge. And he wanted the name badge, which we've got to get him a name badge. He wanted a name badge. He wanted to hold on to it. It's like, right, but where there's some bragging rights as part of something. Did you get access to that? Were you in the room for that? Right? I was part of that. I remember when people talk about John Reese's original, like Traffic Secrets, the live event. There are some events that have taken place in our industry over the years. Gary Benzavenga's event, the John Reese event. These are events like if you were in the room, there's a little bit of bragging rights too that come with it, right? There's a feeling of I was part of something special to that. And that's what I look for. It's part of what I look for. And I think this is the criteria that I look for. This is what I think about. Could there be more on this list? Maybe. I'm sure if I spend even more time thinking about this, I'm always, like you've heard me say so many times, and I think you even heard it yesterday, but I'm always looking for different. In this case, I not only want different, right? I'm not only looking for something different. I'm never thinking about the same or better. Like I don't think about, wow, that's a cool product idea. I want to just do that a little bit better. I never, ever think about that. I never go there. I always think about like, what could I offer, again, that would drive people wild? What's wildly different than what's out there right now? What do these people desperately want that they're not getting right now? What would they see as insanely valuable because they would see it as rare, because they would see it as the first of its kind, because they would see it as there's nothing like this, nobody else is offering anything like this. Because my gosh, what it took to put this together, right? There's something special in that this is giving me access to information or people or knowledge that I would normally not get access to. And my gosh, if I'm lucky enough to get a piece of this, like there's some pride in it. That's what I think about. I want to be careful that you don't start to believe that these type of ideas are rare and scarce. If you believe that they're rare and scarce and you enter in with that scarcity type of mindset, then you're going to start to say like, well, I can only apply this here. The reality is, right, like if I could, and if I really pushed myself, I would try to come up with these kind of products for all the products that we sell, right? Like, why not? It just made the job infinitely easier. These were massive money makers. They were fun to work on, right? It was a whole different experience, like a whole different experience. There's something wildly different, for what it's worth, when you know you got something special. Like when you know I've got something special, and now it comes time for you to market it. There's a whole different perspective than when you've got something and you're like, I got to figure out how the heck to market this thing. Totally different ballgame, totally different experience, totally different outcome. But I want to just wrap this up real quick so that we can move on. You know, like, look, and I want you to listen to me. Listen to me. Some of you are holding on so tightly to what worked 18 months ago, 24 months ago, right? And the mindset of, well, this worked 20 months ago, this built the back of my business, therefore it should work today, is poor thinking. Is poor thinking. Markets evolve, markets change. Things that were new are now old. Things that were novel are now commoditized. Things that were once valuable are no longer valuable, and you have to adjust accordingly. You can fight it, right? And you can continue to try to bang your head against the wall. But if the market doesn't value it anymore or see it in the same light, then you need to adapt. You need to adapt. And this is why you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. Am I selling something that I want to sell, or am I selling something that the market desperately wants to buy? Because the two are not always the same. And I see this. I've had enough conversations with enough Top One members where I see this. They're holding on to, they're selling what they want to sell, right? And holding on to that. And what you want driving your decisions is, what does the market desperately want? What does the market see as new? What does the market see as fresh? What would the market see as different? What would the market see as hot? Right? Stop thinking about, I've got this product and what's the highest price I can sell this for, and start thinking about, what would the market pay $3,000 for if that's what you want to sell at, and love it. And love it. What do they put a $3,000 value on? Because that's different today in many markets. That's different today. What they would have invested $3,000 for a year ago, even in some markets, is wildly different than what they would invest $3,000 today. And so stop thinking about, what can I sell this thing for that I want to sell, and start looking at your marketplace and asking yourself, based on the marketplace, what do they want to buy? What would they happily fork over $5,000 for? What do they think is worthy of $5,000 or $3,000 or $1,000 or whatever the amount is? What do they see as valuable? What would they see as new? What would they see as different? Make sense?